This story isn't mine. It belonged to a friend, Evan. He wasn't the kind of guy who made things up. If anything, he kept too much inside. But the night he found that diary, everything changed. Because from the very first word he wrote, the diary started writing back. Evan didn't buy the notebook. He didn't remember finding it. One morning, it was just there, on his desk. Black leather, blank pages, like it had been waiting. He opened it out of curiosity, and right before his eyes, words began bleeding through the paper. Not drawn, not written, just appearing. Some nights, he'd wake up and find whole pages he didn't remember writing, filled with things he'd never say, memories he didn't own. It knew everything. Things he'd buried, things no one else should ever see. The diary was reading him back. Then came the first instruction. Clear, urgent, and impossible to ignore. Burn the red door, though Evan had no idea what that meant. He'd never seen that door before, not in this house. But now it was there, bold, red, waiting at the end of a hallway that didn't exist yesterday. It led somewhere, downward. And the deeper he went, the more the house above seemed like a memory, fading too fast. It was watching him, pressed behind the walls, like a memory trapped in concrete. And its eyes followed wherever he moved. Every page he never wrote, but somehow did. Each one whispered back fragments of a version of him that shouldn't exist anymore. His hand moved, not by his will, not by muscle memory. Something else was writing through him, and what it wrote ended him. The diary had begun rewriting more than paper. Now it was unspooling his memories, stitching in moments he never lived but couldn't deny. It smiled first. The thing in the mirror. It wasn't him, but it knew everything he was afraid to remember. It wasn't just his story anymore. His sister had found her own diary, and the pages were already halfway written. They weren't stories anymore.
You can't escape. We know everything.
They were mouths, and all of them were calling him home.
Join us.
This wasn't the end of his story. It was just the last one he'd get to write. Himself. The apartment was found empty. No signs of struggle. No Evan. Just the diary, still warm to the touch. The last words written weren't in his hand. They never were. And even now, they keep appearing, page by page, line by line. It's still writing, and now it knows your name.
She lived alone, or so she thought. But little signs betrayed something else. Soup levels dipping lower than she remembered. A spoon out of place. At first it felt like forgetfulness, until forgetfulness started to feel like denial. The bathroom mirror fogged up one morning, even though she hadn't showered. A damp towel lay balled up in the hamper. She stood still, staring at her own confused reflection, wondering if memory had started playing tricks on her. Eggs vanished. Toast crumbs appeared on the counter overnight. It was always just a little, just enough to second-guess herself. The house was quiet, yet it felt disturbed, like something had passed through when she wasn't looking. Late at night, she heard soft creaks in the ceiling. Her hand hovered over the TV remote, muted now. The sound wasn't constant, only the occasional thump, like weight shifting above her head. She avoided the attic. Old houses had their sounds, after all. But one evening, standing in the hallway, she felt a draft and looked up. The attic hatch wasn't quite shut. Curiosity, or fear, finally drove her to pull down the ladder. Dust fell in quiet streams. She climbed slowly, each step a question she didn't want answered. She found it tucked away behind boxes, a nest, a sleeping bag, a hot plate, food wrappers, and a faint smell of old socks and instant noodles. Someone had been living here, maybe still was. She didn't scream. She went back down and locked the attic. Then she called the police. Her voice was calm, steady, too steady, maybe. The officers agreed to watch the place. For the first time in weeks, she slept, though likely, like the house might whisper again. Outside, a cruiser sat quietly across the street. They caught him on the third night. A man, thin, sunburned, climbing the backyard tree toward the attic window.
Freeze!
He moved with the clumsy
Police!
confidence of someone who had done this before. He didn't resist, didn't lie. He told them he was careful, always respectful. He only came down when she left, took nothing more than what he needed. His voice didn't shake. She watched from the porch, arms crossed, coffee in hand. When asked if she wanted to press charges, she surprised herself. She said no. She asked if he had anywhere else to go. He moved back into the attic, this time with her knowledge. He helped with groceries, took out the trash. She never gave him a key. He never asked for one. Weeks passed. The house grew quieter again, but this time not in an eerie way. There was breathing upstairs, and music, low, respectful, just enough to remind her she wasn't alone. Eventually, he moved out, got a job. She heard from him now and then, postcards, sometimes a voicemail. The attic remained empty after that, but somehow it didn't feel lonely anymore.